Kalimera, Kalispera, Kalinichta. No matter where in this wild, wacky, and sometimes wonderful world you might be, thank you for making the Highbury Squad part of your day. Another weekend for Arsenal fans to either look on the bright side or have a meltdown. Either way, we're going to chat with one of our favourites and try and break everything down in an honest, new week blank canvas conversation. Let's rock and roll, kids.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
We are here, we are live, and I have to say, I'm getting used to this broadcasting at 5 UK time. What a weekend it has been. We're going to break it all down. Welcome back to Squad Central. I don't even have the energy to do the Mr. Tom Canton. Hi.
Hello. Hello. I don't have the energy either. I'm fatigued, but I know. I feel like me moaning about the motorway is slightly different to anyone else's troubles, but yeah, it's tiring. It's tiring.
I feel like I said hi there like Ross Geller in Friends, that episode of Friends where they did the flashback and he walks into the pool room or whatever and he goes, hi. And Joey says, every time this guy says hello, I feel like I want to kill myself.
Well, when G was asking me how I felt after full time, I was like, I'm fine. I'm fine. Okay, I'm fine. Really, I'm fine.
Oh, gosh. Welcome to everyone who's made it into live chat, and hello to everyone listening on replay and our audio platforms. I have missed you guys. My dad was here, so took a few days off, but we are back. Let's just say hello to... God, I got a new... Here's the thing, Tom. You know you want to try and be festive, so you put yourself in front of the tree, but then you got a totally different setup, and now you can't reach the cursor. Do people even call it a cursor anymore?
Oh, the touchpad.
Touchpad, says the millennial.
Yeah.
Yes. So good evening to Jean Rene. Oh my God, your comments are flying in already. We'll get to them. Jonathan, Neil, Evgeny, Tammy, MK, PW, Galispera, Carol, hello. Milind, hello. Kermit's middle finger. It's a good one. Oh God, I love it. Let's see. Ian is here. Are you looking forward to it, Ian? Hold your breath. Fergus is here. Don't forget, after this at 7 p.m, go listen to Fergus, Trev, and the rest of the boys at Guns and Yellow Ribbons. They're some of the good guys. K Marlon, Harvey, and to everyone else who's here, thank you so much for making us part of your day. Thank you. You know what? It's Christmas. When do you ever get to broadcast in front of a tree? My very own Good Morning Britain set. Although all of a sudden I'm sweating like swine and I have no idea why. Oh, this is quite a name. Salty Wet. We'll just leave it at that.
Well, that has increased the temperature. Jeez.
It has. So, Tom, good weekend. Apart from the football, I always like to ask, how was your weekend from a human perspective?
Yeah. I mean, I've been able to achieve the thing that football fans kind of the enlightenment that all football fans should achieve, which is to, outside of work and the game, completely detach from football, so that the game, if we lose, draw, win, whatever, maybe I'll be in a better mood if we win, but no longer if we drop points does it affect me at all. Me and the missus watched some Jamie Oliver at Christmas to prepare, because we're hosting Christmas this year, so we got to get prepared. We watched the new Lindsay Lohan Christmas film because we like bad films, so we watched that.
The one in Scotland, the one that's
no. The one where it's like she's in a relationship in her 20s. They break up. It goes fast forward 10 years. She's with a new fella, and her new fella's sister is dating the guy she used to date. So they come together at like a Christmas gathering unknowingly. and it's about how they obviously, you know what happens in every Lindsay Lohan film. So yeah.
Let me say, Lindsay Lohan's life is more predictable now than it used to be. There's no doubt about that. And I have to say, these I have a really good friends in New Jersey, and their mom, when they all come home for the holidays, she makes them sit through all of these Lifetime Hallmark romantic kind of cut and paste movies. And I have to say that I love them. And there's actually one that's Netflix have released a whole bunch of them right now. And there's actually one that isn't Christmassy. There's a new one that's about this American woman that is working in England and falls in love with this football star.
Okay.
So bad. It's good. But yeah, so keep up with the Lindsay Lohan movies, Tom Canton. I love that. Is G roping you into those, or do you have a soft spot for good movies?
It was her idea. Like, my favorite Christmas film anyway is The Holiday, so I'm already on kind of the soppy Christmassy stuff. Like, so yeah,
The Holiday is a banger.
Enjoys it, but I'm more than happy to put a rubbish movie on. And last thing I'll say on Christmas is a Christmas tree produces the perfect light level when every other light in the room is off and it's just the Christmas tree. Or ours. So, in fact, I don't know if you saw my tweet yesterday. You saw the Christmas tree in the background of me providing the offside line.
Yes, that was very impressive, by the way.
Lied, sat down and she showed me her phone. I was like, I'm definitely tweeting that out. So, yeah.
I love it. We're a low light family here anyway. We love low light. So when it comes to Christmas, it's our jam. It's perfect. So yeah. Okay, trashy films. Yeah. I mean, keep the recommendations coming, by the way. Miracle on 53rd Street. It's 52nd Street. Or are you joking? What my favorite of all time? I love the Polar Express. And I do love The Holiday. Yeah. And it's really funny because seeing as, we'll riff off here a little bit. When I first worked for 20th Century Fox, I went, it was literally my second day, right? And they said, we need to go watch a film. And I'm like, what? Like, we get to watch films during the day. I mean, it was part of your job. That's what you do, right? They said, we're going to go watch a film. There's some movie. They think it might be a sleeper. A sleeper in the industry, for those who don't know, is an unpredictable film that kind of is released. No one knows anything about, and it becomes a blockbuster. It does well. So I go into this screening. It's my second day, and I'm like all excited because I'm working for 20th Century Fox, and sit down and watch this film. And at the end of it, I'm like, wow, that is amazing. And that film was Home Alone. This is how old I am.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, don't go wow on the film or wow on how old I am.
No, the film. Definitely the film. 100% the film.
And I love those moments. It was just like, this film is a banger. And of course it has a very special place in my heart because I was there at the very beginning where I watched it when no one really knew anything about it. I love those moments. The same thing happened with Ghost. No one wanted that film. It went into turnaround, which means it goes from studio to studio. No one picks it up. And then you watch it and you're like, what is this film? It's funny. I watched actually with Sean Connery, which was very weird. And Ghost, of course, went on to be a global hit. Anyway, I digress. Christmas to Ghost. And speaking of ghosting, maybe a lot of Arsenal fans want to ghost the team. Tom, it was... know how to quantify my feelings about this. Yeah. I went from, I don't know if it's because of life cycle of this year for me and putting things in buckets and kind of what's important, what isn't, not wanting to kill people, but also being totally frustrated as a fan. It's weird. This whole week I've followed LA Galaxy and covered MLS Cup, and I was there for the game, and, watching someone like Marco Reus celebrate a title, which he never achieved as a 7-time, I think it was, runner-up at Borussia Dortmund. And just to see that moment for him, Maya Yoshida, a total legend at Southampton and a Japanese international legend, never lifted a trophy in his entire career. And just to see them have that moment and what it meant to them, maybe they didn't expect, it to come at this point here in their career. But just to, Ricky Puig, who was a Barcelona La Masia, everyone wanted him. Everyone wanted to buy Ricky Puig. Tore his ACL, missed the final. They win it. I mean, it's a moment of beauty and also to be in the dressing room with those players and to see what it means, the sacrifice. And I think sometimes as fans, we don't realize just how hard it is to win. Marco Reus, how many years has he been playing football? Maya Yoshida, how many years? And think about the managers he played under at Southampton as well. And of course, Southampton not going to win the Premier League, but you've always got an opportunity in the cups. Yeah. And then I was on my way home yesterday from the parade or the celebration, and I was thinking, fans just don't realize how hard it is to win. So before I get into my top 5, I know people want to win really badly, but winning in sports is so hard.
Yeah, I think that you accept that. Well, I accept that when I became a fan. If you're gonna be a football fan, it's you have to accept that you're not always going to win. You can't win every single game. No one has ever done that. We're supporting a team. We're fortunate to support a team that managed to go an entire season without losing a game, which in itself is such an endemic and unique achievement that only us in the Premier League era, and of course before that Preston 100 years ago plus were the only team able to achieve that. So yeah, it's without question winning is incredibly difficult, and it requires in the Premier League, let alone compared to LA Galaxy's brilliant achievement in the MLS, which in itself is still a brilliant achievement, especially how the competitiveness of the MLS continues to increase every single year. Frankly, it's got to a stage where you look at like Inter Miami and you think the fact that they haven't won it is an embarrassment almost. So it's very difficult, and for teams that aren't the favourites, like I don't think people said LA Galaxy, for an example, were the favourites, close to being the favourites maybe at the start of the MLS season. It's incredibly difficult to win, and Arsenal have found that. If we're going to segue over, we are finding it ourselves very, very difficult to win.
Yeah, and it's funny because LA Galaxy are probably the Man United over here. They've won it 6 times. United won it a lot. Liverpool. Everyone was expecting Messi and Busquets and Jordi Alba to win it, and they didn't, and that was great for the league. And I think this season, and in many seasons in the Premier League, we're looking for someone other than Manchester City to win it. And Harvey, I appreciate you don't care about Marco Reus, but stick with me here. It's part of the narrative, right? So Tom, let's get stuck into it. 13 minutes in.
I want to get this done quick, so say.
Love it. Okay, here we go. Now, a show that never aired, actually, and I've been noodling on it, but...
Oh, I have a one with Kevin, yeah.
Yes. You and Kevin recorded a show, Why Do Arsenal Fans Always Need a Scapegoat? A great show. We were actually going to re-record it. Never got round to doing that, but it seems that it's gone from... I mean, you can look over the seasons, Xhaka, Zinchenko last season, Jesus, although maybe his kind of form and what he's paid and what we expected, a little bit more deserved. Now it feels, of course, Havertz is back to being a scapegoat. But this season, it really feels like Martinelli is the scapegoat. You and I exchanged messages over the weekend. It's a shame, because the cross was amazing. I've never seen a player so eviscerated for being offside. Talk to me.
It felt like he felt eviscerated before the cross, though. Like he came on, he almost like he was playing angry, Martinelli, when he came off the bench, which can be good, but that little bit of loss of focus, and it cost us very, very dearly. Martinelli's in this weird phase at the moment. I think there are 3 kind of outcomes to yesterday's game where people's heads are at, maybe 4, but at least 3 outcomes where people's heads are at with Martinelli. There's one that's way far beyond the line, like genuinely abusing the guy after what happened. And those people can get in the bin, don't deserve to even be football fans. There's the other one which is where I'm probably at, which is scrutinizing what I think deserves to be scrutinized, which I think is at this level, you cannot be offside there. And when you're a winger and you're able to see the line in the final moments of a game, you need to make sure that you're onside. And there isn't an excuse to be offside in that moment. And it's such a shame that he was, because as you pointed out, the delivery, which is something that we've really been criticising Martinelli on, is his final decision, his final pass, his final ball, his final finish has not been there. So when it finally was, it's cancelled out. And that broadens beyond just this game to like the last 18 or so months, where Martinelli just hasn't been the Martinelli of 22-23, where he scored 15 goals and got 6 assists and ended the season with 21 goal contributions. I did a phone-in show this morning, and some of the really good suggestions that were brought up was about how Xhaka's exit may have been in part a reason why Martinelli, as a result, has suffered somewhat, and that Declan Rice's role in the midfield isn't helping him anywhere near as much as what Xhaka was. And that's not a fault of Rice. That's just system. That's just profile. That's just as a result. But it can't be an excuse for the drop, in my view, of Martinelli's performances. And then there's the third one, which is, as a player that's been here a long time, as still a relatively young player, and as somebody that's got a personality that you really want to see succeed, I think there's more of a buffer for some with Martinelli, more of a patience with Martinelli than there is for other players in the team. And I think Havertz has been, say, better than Martinelli by a margin over the last 18 months in the same time period. But Havertz, for instance, wouldn't get anywhere near the patience that Martinelli's been given, for instance, over these past, that's the same amount of time since Havertz has arrived. And that is part earned by Martinelli's season in 22-23, and of course his age bracket as well, and the fact he didn't cost £65 million, and the fact he's not on the wage that Havertz is on. But I think it's interesting. It's also worth pointing out that Trossard wasn't very good either yesterday. So it's not like it's a case of, we have to support one and not the other, or it's one or the other in this. Both were poor. But it opens up this debate about what we do with the left side, and is that an area where in the future we need to be ruthless in the market and perhaps replace or upgrade on Martinelli.
So, Tom, do you think it's a case of, because he started off really poorly, then kind of got into a little bit of a groove, 2-3 games, I think it was Leicester and a couple of other games where he started performing a little bit better. The left side has been an issue for many fans, not just this season. The injuries on that left side are a joke now.
Yeah.
I mean, and we always talk about how Martinelli's kind of a muse player, right? I mean, Saka is a world-class player. I think we need to stop kind of comparing him to Saka. Not everyone. Look, is everyone in the Chelsea team as good as Cole Palmer? No, but they have really talented players, right? And we're going to get to that eventually. And that left side, it looked like maybe one of the best formulas for him was the Calafiori-Marino connection, or at least Calafiori. We know that Timber is a player that really is more effective, I think you would agree, on that side than on the right side. And so in some cases, is he being set up to fail? Now, I'm gonna bring in point number 2 so we can kind of mush this all together, because Martinelli has been a player that has, Stephen Nichols said on this show many times, I've said to you, if I see his name and Saka's name on the team sheet over the last 3 or 4 seasons, teams are scared, right? He got injured, and he doesn't really seem to have been the same player since that injury. I'm not making excuses for him. But in a time where I don't think anyone's been great. David Raya was great early on. Thomas Partey's probably been, the most consistent player. Declan Rice has found his form post-international break. Calafiori's been decent, but in and out. Defensively, there's still question marks about him. Kai Havertz has missed Odegaard. Odegaard has missed games. Saka is really, for me, the only one, and maybe Timber, Saliba, Gabriel on those set pieces. Nobody has been consistently great. So now do we get to the point where is Arteta picking the right starting 11? Is he going back to square pegs in round holes? What is your take on this? And I'm not trying to kind of be Martinelli's lawyer here. I just really want to understand.
Yeah, I Fergus put in the chat saying, not saying Martinelli is poor, but the team has improved over the last 3 seasons, but Martinelli has maintained and stagnated. I'd argue he's probably gone slightly backwards in terms of his output, in particular, his confidence as well. And he obviously was one of the few players in the squad that's not what would be described as an Arteta player, because he wasn't signed by Arteta. One of the few players that wasn't. Saka wasn't either. Saliba wasn't either. But both of those have, of course, been significantly improved under Arteta's coaching. I get the protection, and I get the I don't think it's about making excuses for the guy at all, because it's not like this is someone who's never shown us, what he can achieve and what he is capable of. He has, I think, suffered from some issues. I think the left-hand side is an issue. People moan about our summer, but Arsenal invested £70 million to address that problem. And we've not been able to even utilise that. So it's like the season before, we spent £40 million on bringing in a brilliant player in Timber, who we lost for the entirety of the campaign. And we weren't able to benefit from that. We spent, just over 30 million on Moreno. We spent just under 40 million, well, over 40 million in total, but it was significantly less than 40 million in terms of an upfront fee. Try to say that 10 times when you're drunk, on Calafiori. And Calafiori and Moreno have played, I was looking at this earlier, I think they've started 3 games together this season on the left-hand side. And for most people, they put those 2 in their starting 11 in terms of the best 11 for some people. I know that Partey's performances this season have probably, changed that as we sit right now. But Moreno is a left 8. Like, that's his position. Whereas Rice isn't, for me, in terms of his best role. Partey is a 6. So the only real left 8 that we have is Moreno. But the problem is he's not been fit, because he obviously came in, suffered that innocuous, strange injury after already missing part of preseason because of a fitness issue as well after the Euros. And Calafiori, for instance, has played 8 games starting. He started 8 games for us. He has won every single game that he has played, besides 2, which was Man City away, which he scored in. And obviously we went down to 10 men. And Bournemouth away, which we again went down to 10 men after 30 minutes. So the only games we have not won with Calafiori in the team, are the ones that there are certainly reasons behind the fact that we didn't win. Moreno, of course, has not been able to get many games. And as I've talked about before, is not up to full speed. And that's because of these unfortunate injuries that he has suffered. And when those 2 have played together, we have one of the best performances we've had, which was the Nottingham Forest game when we won 3-0, and those 2 played together. We dominated that game. That was one of the best performances of the season, when we battered Nottingham Forest 3-0, and those 2 playing together. And it sucks so much that we invested that money into the left-hand side, as we should have done, as we rightly should have done this summer, because that was a weakness of last season that we've tried to address. But again, this season has just been so unlucky. Like, we've had so much misfortune, and it's gutting. And that's why I can compartmentalize where my head's at with where we are. And yet we still, as I talked about before, like, we've dropped 16 points this season. By the end of last season, by the end of the same point, sorry, let me say that again. We dropped 16 points this season. At the end of last year, so at the end of 2023, we dropped 20 by the same point. So if we're at a point where we're 4 points from matching that, and it's mad to think that we might end this year despite the mood being so low. And we've got very winnable games between now and Brentford as well, that you'd expect Arsenal to win. Then it could end up being a situation where people thinking we're worse, but actually on the points tally, we're better. So it's nuts, really.
Yeah, it just looks up. It was ugly last season too. Not as ugly as this.
Well, December was really bad last season.
Yeah. I mean, West Ham and Fulham, yeah. And also, and Villa. I mean, eventually it was 6 points dropped to Villa. The difference is the points difference, right? We weren't great, but we kept it close. And TV1, we're not frightened of criticizing poor performances. Tom's gone on record, I think, for the last 24 hours criticizing. Most people have criticized Martinelli for being offside there. I just don't agree that we should eviscerate the guy. And I don't like it how Arsenal fans always want to find a scapegoat. if everyone was having a great season, then yeah. And has he been great? No, he hasn't. But nobody has, in my opinion, other than Saka, really. And the players that I mentioned loosely, Timber, I think, has been really consistent. So do we need to upgrade? Of course the team needs to upgrade. I think Fergus said it. We've already outgrown Jesus and we've outgrown Zinchenko and these injury-prone players. We continually need to upgrade, Tom.
It's not just about outgrowing those players. Those players also have not been good enough. Like Gabriel Jesus has not been good enough. Like we signed him, and if you cast your minds back to when we signed him in 2022, right? That when he first broke onto the scene before the knee injury, we'd signed a hell of a player. Like the performance, I remember the Stamford Bridge game where he didn't score or assist, but his performance was stunning. How he started life at Arsenal was mad. It was mad. And knee injuries are crap, right? They can have really bad impacts on players' careers, but you can't excuse some of the performances we've seen from Gabriel Jesus from the bench or even from starting games. We can't excuse those performances. It's not good enough. He's on a huge sum of money, and his performances have not been good enough. The chance he had yesterday, where the ball looped over the defense, fantastic pass over the top for Jesus, and he hesitates to take a swipe. And by the time he's let the ball bounce, because he wants the ball to bounce and then have a go, which is at this level, you can't do that. You have to take the chance when it comes. Look at Enzo Fernandez yesterday and his finish at Spurs, where he hit that ball on the volley first time. That's the type of strike that Jesus should have hit, and he just dawdled on it, and he just hasn't got the confidence. And this is the thing: is that we can complain about the recruitment, but we've got some really good players that are just not performing, that are simply just not doing a good enough job when they're being called on.
So I go back to my point number 2. Is Mikel to blame?
He has to take a part of it. But yeah, absolutely has to to sit here and say, oh, there's no blame on his shoulders for some of the things that happened, like the performance at Newcastle, for instance. That was inexcusable, that performance, and he has to get more from his players. I still get frustrated at the lateness of Ethan Nwaneri's introduction to games. We know what Jesus is producing at the moment. We've seen what Nwaneri has produced coming from the bench, and it's night and day between the two. So how on earth is Jesus still coming on before Ethan Nwaneri at this point? I get the idea of protecting the guy and being cautious to a degree, but you can't see week after week Jesus' lackluster contributions and Nwaneri's impressive contributions and still be reluctant to give him the time when you need to get points. Now, I'm not saying Nwaneri came off the bench and was brilliant yesterday. I think he had really one good moment on the pitch, but it was still one more good moment than Jesus had. And perhaps he had the same amount of time that Jesus had on the pitch. He would have given us more good moments. So I think there are things you can point to. Some people are pointing to the lineup decisions yesterday with Partey at right back, with Timber at left back. I don't have too much. I don't think that's why we lost. I still think we deserved to win yesterday's game. It was yesterday, right? It was Sunday, wasn't it? Yeah. I still think we deserved to win yesterday's game. We created far more chances, obviously, than Fulham. Fulham had 2 shots all game, scored one of them. And we had 12, but we only managed to get 4 of those on target. Jesus, obviously, the one that he missed. Partey's horrendous chance that he put wide. And there's one more, I think, that's escaping me as well that we didn't take. And obviously the offside goal as well that should never have been Martinelli being offside in that position. So we absolutely should have won yesterday's game, but it would have, to a degree, still, kind of papered over some of the cracks that we saw. But the lineup for me, I don't think that, people talk about playing MLS or starting Tierney. I mean, if you're banking on Tierney, who's not played for Arsenal in goodness knows how long, that's not started a single game or played a single minute in however months to be Arsenal's saviour at left back, I don't know what on earth you're expecting from that. So sorry, Soph, go on.
No, I think that's kind of crazy talk, considering how little football he's played, and we all knew. I have a question, Tom, because everyone says he didn't like to play him because he didn't fit the way he wanted to play anyway. He's just not that player. But Mikel asks his players to be adaptable, right? And this is the issue that I have with him. And many have said it in the live chat right now about Thomas Partey taking the best performing midfielder out of the midfield and playing him
Yeah.
at right back,
Yeah.
right? The players have been adaptable and they do whatever he asks. But has he proven that he's adaptable?
I think that we've seen an evolution under Arteta, obviously, from the point that he took over. It's grown into a side that when we first had him at the club, no one was like, what's the philosophy? Like, how are we playing? No one knows what Arteta's style of play is. No one knows what he's trying to achieve here. And that's because he didn't have the personnel. We have the personnel now to a degree. And obviously, we've lost quite a lot of the key figures as well. I mean, 3 starting defenders were missing from yesterday's team, obviously. Starting level players were missing. And if you consider that the build-up always starts from the back, of course, that's going to hurt you. Is Arteta doing as much as what he could do? Well, no, as I've already pointed out, I think there are things that he could have changed and could have done differently. But I still think that yesterday's performance for me was more about player performance than it was about the managerial decisions. I think there was things he could have done differently, but I'm more critical of the players yesterday than I am the manager. At Newcastle, I was more critical of Arteta. Aston Villa at home last season, I was more critical of Arteta than the players, but because it has to be judged upon those individual games. So yesterday, I felt, Havertz didn't step up at all. Havertz was invisible yesterday. Trossard didn't do enough and was greedy in moments that he should have been more collaborative. Martinelli came on and made a really bad mistake. Ultimately, it's cost us a goal. And I think, even like we talk about the Partey has probably been our best midfielder this season, but had a poor game in midweek against Man United.
He's not getting killed for missing that header.
No, and I know he's not, and he should. Like, he absolutely should. Like, he should be getting as much stick as Martinelli is getting for being offside. Because they've both made mistakes that have cost goals that should have been goals. So they are equally to blame in terms of those missed opportunities to score.
And Tom, just real quick, but while we're there, what about Declan Rice's final delivery? We're into the last opportunity of the game, and he totally sends a rocket into the stands.
He did have some really good deliveries in the game as well. But I understand what you're saying. Like, it's not just about Martinelli. Like, ultimately, and team, I can say he cost us a goal because if he's onside, we score. So him being offside has cost us a goal.
Wasn't Jesus offside too at the top of the
maybe, but I don't think it mattered, did it? Because obviously the ball went to Saka. Yeah. But you absolutely can say that he's cost a goal there. The same way I can say Partey's cost us a goal. The same way that I can say that Arteta's decision making has probably cost us some points this season.
Yeah. So it feels like more than ever it's a collective versus an individual. Hence why I just wanted to talk through the Martinelli scapegoating and the history of some of our fan base. I'm not saying all, Fergus, but some of our fan base. Here's the other thing that is really getting to me. I'll get rid of your handles here on screen, Thomas.
Oh, there they are.
By the way, 200 of you in live chat on this unusual hour on a Monday for Monday Madness. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please do hit that like button. It helps the show. And let's talk again about mental. I thought that we were overcoming this mental weak sauce personality. And as I'm watching Chelsea be Arsenal 2022-23, I'm watching Arsenal become 2021, 22. You can talk all you want about players being tired, injuries. What is lacking in this team that we haven't seen? We've seen it in spurts. We saw it against Manchester City. We saw a little bit against Manchester United. We saw, West Ham are garbage, but you still have to beat who's in front of you. They seem to be enjoying that game. There seems to be a lack of the intimidation factor, the passion factor. Yeah. What is it, Tom?
I don't think it's a lack of passion or motivation. I think the players are very motivated. I just think that I think this season there's been so much adversity that we have had to face that has been both within our control but majorly out of our control, that it's had a serious impact on our season. And that's why I can compartmentalize. That's why I'm not as angry as what some other people are, about where we are. Because I recognize the fact that despite all of this, we're still above Manchester City. We're still, and I don't like talking about how far we are to Liverpool now because they had that game in hand. With 6 points off them, it's probably 9. I would expect them to beat Everton away from, even though they lost that game last season. But like, yesterday was our 9th back 4 that we've played. Our 9th different amalgamation of the back 4, which is nuts. Because that's not just 1 or 2 players dropping out here and there. That's a huge number of players dropping out. And as I've pointed out, despite the fact that we lost our most influential player alongside Saka, who also was missing for a crucial game that we lost against Bournemouth and wasn't fully fit to play Liverpool that we drew, despite losing Odegaard, of course, as I've mentioned, and Calafiori being out and our signings being out, and just the difficulties, the ridiculous decision-making that we've seen from officials and the red cards that we've also had to deal with, and some of the penalty decisions and some of the fortuitous decisions that our rivals have been given. That we still are having a debate about whether we're still in the title race, that it's still a conversation. The fact that we're still here and still above Man City, who have only lost 1. Like, I know they've lost others in smatterings, but they've only lost 1 of those key players, despite winning 6 of the last 7 titles. Haaland's still been fit. Silva's still been fit. Their 2 wingers they spent a lot of money on have still been there. De Bruyne is... You can talk about De Bruyne, but obviously at his age, there is an expectation at that point of a diminishment. And we've known about his injury issues for a long, long time. And they've not done enough in the market to replace those either. And obviously they sold Julian Alvarez and didn't replace him. So I still look at where we are. And I think the main anger, Sophie, just comes from exhaustion, fan exhaustion of us not winning, basically. That we've challenged for the title in the last 2 seasons. We've been pipped to the post last season. We were pipped to the post slightly earlier the season before that. And there was kind of this expectation of, we've done it twice, so we're on that route now. And then when you see who's above us and you see that it's Liverpool and you see that Chelsea are 2 points above us, that obviously adds to the anger and the frustration and the questioning. That's the thing. It's the question. It's how can they be there after we've done what we've done? How can they be in, as people wrongly describe, as in phase 1, because they've both got new coaches this season, and we be where we are? Why are we still failing? And yet at the same time, while the people are asking those questions, of course, about those teams, I find that the people that ask those questions are usually the same people that describe the injuries, the red cards, the inconsistency of abling to start an 11 as excuses. They often label these things as the excuses when they're not. They're just reasons. They're just genuine explanations as to why what has happened. There are things that we could have done better, but not to a degree where we'd be above Liverpool. There is no decision I personally believe that Arteta could have done that would see us above Liverpool right now, no matter what he could have done. If he had a fairy godmother granting a wish this season to make it all Christmases as I can, I just don't believe that there could have been something he could have done, been different to see us now top of the league and above this Liverpool team and where they are.
I totally agree with you about the emergence of Chelsea. I said at the start of the season that I thought people were underestimating Chelsea. Even though they were poor defensively and hadn't found their groove in midfield, they just had an abundance of players to choose from. And that makes a huge difference. And let's be honest, they're very talented players. And maybe on paper they have a better squad than us now.
Well, they should do, Sophie. Because look at what they've spent. Look at the money that's been invested at Chelsea. If you go on Transfermarkt, this summer, 238 million euros. Last summer, 464 million euros. The season before, if you thought 464 was big, the season before, 630 million euros in a season. They should be above us. Frankly, it's nuts, that spending. Absolutely insane.
But the issue is, Tom, is that, just a few months ago, they were a total laughing stock, right? And that maybe was, of course, the owner and the spending part. But maybe they're proving once again, like City have, that spending yields potential results. Now, I want to get to Chelsea eventually, but we're on the subject now, so let's talk about this.
Yeah.
It's because Maresca is the guy at the helm. This is the issue, right? So I was going to get to like number 5, but let's talk about this, right? It's the same panic when Emery started doing well. Aston Villa got them into the Champions League. It's the same fear of what Amorim might do at Manchester United in 2 or 3 seasons. But it's the fact that Slot and Maresca feel like the new kids on the block, and they're driving and they're playing sexy football and they're scoring goals and they're finding ways to win. This has got nothing to do with Cole Palmer versus Saka. Who's got Caicedo? We should have bought him. It's got zero to do with that. This is all about Arteta versus Maresca versus Slot. That's what it is.
Well, that's what it is in people's minds, but that obviously just if you're looking at it on a managerial point of view, then you are taking out a lot of the context of the argument. I've got a whole lot of context situation. One of the big hypocrisies and contradictions that the biggest critics of Arteta have when they point to Chelsea or they point to Liverpool is that none of those people would have been calling for Maresca to be Arteta's replacement. None of those people would have been calling for Slot to be Arteta's replacement. Slot's been in management for 3 years longer than Arteta, and Maresca's been in management 2 years less than Arteta. No one was calling for that because what we were told by the people who feel that have all the answers is that it was an Ancelotti that we needed to go for. It was an Inzaghi. It's someone who's been there. It's someone who's done it. Someone who's gone and won the biggest of trophies, won the biggest of honours. And we should not compromise our beliefs on our management picks to anybody other than those that can do and have done those jobs. You know, when I've sat here and had debates with our good friend Dan Potts, it's always been, we have to go for an Ancelotti. We should have gone for an Allegri. We should have gone and got a Simeone because these are the names that are going to take you to places. But it's not, is it? It's a guy that's got 2 years less managerial experience than Arteta at the helm of Chelsea. And it's a guy that's only got 3 more years of experience only in the Netherlands, more than Arteta. So the whole argument of, oh, let's go and get the guys that have done it. Arsenal have no ambition. They're not attracting the biggest coaches. It's not the biggest coaches that are winning the leagues at the moment. It's not the biggest coaches, the most experienced coaches, the most notable coaches that are toppling Pep Guardiola. It's the coaches actually that are in their early phases that are really young and budding and inexperienced and learning on the job that are doing it. Arsenal rose back to relevancy and back to the title race again because they brought in a coach and got kind of ahead of the curve, if you will, and bringing in one of the best young coaches around. And now Chelsea and Liverpool have followed suit. But the difference that Chelsea and Liverpool have got compared to Arsenal, and the difference that Liverpool, I call them Chiverpool. We can call them Chiverpool if you like, put them together. The difference that Chiverpool have got is that they already had huge resources for those new coaches to inherit. Slot comes in and inherits one of probably the second best squad at the time in the league, the best attackers in the league, and was, of course, unable to work with players that, you know, he obviously has a very good understanding of. He's got a good Dutch connection with Van Dijk and with Gakpo and players like that. And, of course, Klopp has left a golden goose of a club to his next manager to come in, which, if we're being honest, Emery and prior to that, Wenger did the exact opposite with what they left behind. And then you look at Chelsea, as we've just talked about, the wealth of resources from a club that, from a monetary standpoint, prior to Todd Bowley coming in, were very well run by Abramovich, by the signings they made, and by the way in which they would produce young talent that would then be sold on so they could offset their spending very well. And they were able to use loopholes at the beginning of the Todd Bowley era with kind of amortization of contracts and things like this that have now been kind of sewn up with certain rules that have come in that could still bite them later on down the line if they end up failing. But the way in which, of course, they're now in a title race, arguably, could end up saving them in that part. Whereas Arsenal didn't have that. You know, Edu was sitting there cancelling contracts because no one wanted to buy our players because the regime prior to him, with Wenger or then, you know, Raul Sanyehi and Sven Mislintat and people like this, brought in utter duds that left us financially ruined, and we've had to sustainably then build this squad up to what it is in a pretty unsustainable way, because we've still made loss after loss after loss, season after season after season. So that's the difference between Arsenal and Liverpool, is this absolute difference of context. And the irony, of course, that those young coaches would never have been picked by those that are the most vehement in their criticism of Arteta.
So there's so many comments
Of course
about
there are.
Maresca and, mate, okay, why can't it be that Arteta has taken this club as far as he could? Maybe an injection of something new can get this group over the line. We'll get to that.
It can be. I just want to address that. It can be.
Yeah.
But for me, like, Arteta earned this contract by getting us to where he has got us to, which is further than anybody who's criticised him thought that he would, which is back into a title race, of course, and back into a position where we are, competing again. And I've never had more fun in my footballing conscious life, as a younger guy, 30 now, so not so young, but in that position where I'm really getting football. Because when it was the Invincibles, which was the last time really we could properly enjoy watching Arsenal again, was those early 2000s. This is the most fun, most enjoyment I've got out of seasons is watching Arsenal in these last couple of years. But he has to deliver a title or a Champions League in this contract to stay. Because if he doesn't deliver that in this contract, that proves that he has taken us as far as he can take us.
Okay, so Tom, how damning would it be if Liverpool, I think maybe some fans would swallow that pill because of Van Dijk and Trent and Salah, Robertson, Diaz, Gakpo. I mean, the midfield has been what Slot's done with Graham Birch. I mean, there was, like you've said and I've said previously, the architecture, the blueprint was there, right? He walked into a beautifully team that was ready-made, but he's also made them better because they seem to be more reliable defensively. The games aren't as open. How damning would it be if still Slot, but more so? And I think Chelsea will run into problems. I think Liverpool is still going to run into problems. I don't think this is over. We'll get to that at the end.
It's December,
right. But how damning? Where would you be if, I like to play the what if game, Maresca wins the title?
If Chelsea win the league this season, hypothetically speaking, which I don't think they will, even if they finish above Arsenal, like without winning the league, it is damning. It is certainly something you look at and go, that's a really tough pill to swallow. And for Arteta and the club, there's certainly question marks to say. And if I was in a press conference at the end of the season and that's where we were at, that's the first question I would ask. I would say, at the end of last season, Mikel, you told us to not be satisfied with finishing second behind Manchester City, his words. And I would say to him, how do you explain that not only have we not won the title this season, but a team in Chelsea have been able to overcome us? And why, therefore, do you think you're still the right guy to take Arsenal forward if they, in essence, have gone backwards? How do you explain that? That would be what I would ask if I was in that press conference. And if I am in that press conference and that's the situation, I will ask that question. So you have my word on that. But because that is the question to answer. It's now, if there's an argument come the end of the season that the factors that we've discussed, if the injuries continue, if the BS decisions continue, you can genuinely explain away Arsenal's season with that, then fair enough. If you can, and there's no way of proving that that's going to be the case at this point in time, because as we've said, it's December. So, and also it comes with another side of it is if we do finish there, but say we've won the FA Cup, or so we finished third, say behind Chelsea and Liverpool, we've won the FA Cup or we've delivered a Champions League, that obviously also changes the dynamic of the conversation because then you've got that factor alongside it. I don't think you can finish outside the top four, win the FA Cup and still call it a good season. You can't. Because I didn't say that when Man United did that because I didn't think it was a good season. But that for me would be a very, very clear question to ask. I think if Chelsea win the league this season, which as I said, I don't expect them to do, but hypothetically, it would be very, very damning. And I'd love to know how Arteta could explain that.
So I would stand on, and you know kind of where I stand. We have the conversation a lot when people are like, get rid of him. Okay, well, who you're going to get? And it's a young manager's game, right? Everyone's looking for the next Maresca now, the Amorim. The reason why those guys have a job is because Arsenal rolled the dice with Mikel Arteta. Jurgen Klopp maybe was kind of like the guy that kind of kicked all that off, but he had the history at Dortmund. But it's the blueprint. Eric Ten Hag, Man United stuck with him for a while because they were using the Mikel Arteta blueprint. I talked to Adam from Forever United TV about that. I talked to Flex about that, and they wanted Manchester United to stick with him the way Arsenal had done with Mikel Arteta through the adversity. Of course, it's Eric Ten Hag was pretty much useless in the Premier League. He's a good cup manager. And now we're seeing the same with Maresca. Slot comes with a little bit more history. Of course, Maresca, Leicester promotion, whatever. But it's a young man's game. There's no doubt about that. The dinosaurs, the Conte, even Ancelotti struggling with Real Madrid this year, but he's got the pedigree. Conte, they've done it. It's a new era, right? I think if Chelsea. My dad's calling. I'll call him back later. I think if Chelsea finish above us, that's one thing. But if they win the title, Tom, that's unacceptable.
Well, let's talk about that if it happens.
Okay. All right. Okay. Fine. But I'm just saying. I think that might be insurmountable from a fan perspective. I don't think it's going to be from an owner perspective. So let's talking about a team that has spent $1 gazillion, but it's not like Mikel Arteta hasn't. He's 46. Well done there, Tom. He's keeping his eye on the chat as well. This guy can do it all.
I love it.
January to the rescue. I mean, we talk about investment, we talk about money, we talk about the value of, this is a different era of football. Is January going to be a time when Arsenal can right some wrongs?
There has to be.
And where and what?
Well, if we have the same January we had last year, it's inexcusable, unacceptable, ridiculous. If Arsenal don't spend in this January window, if they don't add somebody, one or two, I think more than two's a little far-fetched to expect. I'm expecting at least one. That's not based off any knowledge or inside info, by the way. And Edu resigning is not an excuse, because Jason Ato has stepped into that role for now while they look for a replacement. That role has already had work ahead of it. And we have to spend in January. Like, we have to add an attacking option for me. We have to add somebody who can compete. We have to add somebody who can offer goals, add difference, replace Jesus, who is not doing enough, from when he comes onto the field, and push starting players. And potentially we need to add another versatile fullback to this group, because Ben White's out for a while. Timber's not going to be able to run it on his own. Calafiori's fitness can't be trusted right now. Tomiyasu's fitness can't be trusted right now. Zinchenko's fitness can't be trusted right now. Miles Lewis-Skelly's fitness can't be trusted right now, nor is he of a level yet that I think we should be looking to rely on him. So we absolutely have to go into this market. We shouldn't be in a position where January should save us. January shouldn't save anyone if you're competing for a title. If you're expecting January to save a title challenge, then there's question marks about the summer transfer window. And there are question marks about the summer transfer window to a degree, but I think they're explainable. But when it comes to January, we have to add. Absolutely have to add.
Okay, so do you see a case of, someone said, if Demsek said that unless it's pre-planned, I don't expect much to happen in January.
Yep.
Do you see the removal of certain players? I can't see the exodus happening until the summer. I think you've reported too that you feel like those changes won't happen until the summer. But why do you have Sterling sitting there and paying him 140 grand a week if you're not going to use him? What's the point?
Yeah, I think that obviously the Sterling signing was an admission that they felt they needed to bring in an attacking option, and no one else was gettable of a certain level. I still hate that we let Reece Nelson leave. Like, Reece Nelson would be doing far more than Raheem Sterling's doing. And I am on record as saying that I thought when we signed Raheem Sterling, we'd signed a better player. than Reece Nelson, I can hold my hands up firmly and say, sorry, guys, I was wrong. Sterling is not offering more than what I think Reece Nelson.
But he's not really been given the opportunity. I don't care what anyone says about Sterling.
He's next to nothing. So, like, even when he is given the minutes, like he came off the bench against Shakhtar Donetsk and was horrendous, utterly horrendous in that game. And that
he also assisted Waneri for his first Premier League goal.
Yeah, he did against Bolton. He did. Oh, sorry, the
Forest.
the goal against Forest, and we're already 2-0 up. Yes, he did, and it's a good cutback, and that's probably the best thing he's done in an Arsenal shirt. But that performance, the Southampton game, it was sprightly, but sprightly is as much of a compliment as I can give him for starting that game. He's just underwhelming, and Arsenal needed an attacking player in the summer. The summer wasn't really forthcoming with options. Like, even though, names have come forward, like Williams didn't want to leave, Benjamin Šeško wanted his future sorted out before the Euros, which Arsenal weren't able to commit to at that time. Others, as I said, weren't available. People can talk about Rafael Leao, no. Kvaratskhelia, no. Like, these aren't players that were moving in the summer. And yeah, like it's just very, very frustrating. I think that, like, the Osimhen one is interesting. Like, if you'd have said to me we're signing Osimhen on loan for the rest of the season, I don't know why maybe that wasn't something that wasn't explored more, because Chelsea explored it on deadline day, and he ends up going to Galatasaray. So yeah, that might be a missed one, like the Osimhen one, for instance. That might be a bit of a miss. Maybe it's something like, maybe it's an off-field thing, because obviously there was issues with Napoli, and maybe that put Arsenal off. I don't know, but maybe the loan was a missed opportunity there.
Okay, so I think it's funny. I was talking to people at LA Galaxy, and there's a player there that is really. I told Clive Palmer to check him out. Yeah. Have you heard about Peck?
I've heard about Peck. I go to the gym every single week, and I've got anyway. I've heard a little bit about him. There was a link with him last week, so I did a little bit of digging around him, and
yeah, and Liverpool also after him because, of course, the Salah thing, the up and down situation there. Let me tell you something. Duran's impact at Aston Villa.
Yeah.
Peck, I think, is much more talented.
Wow.
And we're talking about 15, 20 million, right? Which would be it would be a record signing from Major League Soccer. Here's the other thing. His pace, he makes everyone on our team look slow, right? His control of the ball in tight spaces is incredible. Just go watch his goal in the Western Conference in the semi-final, the individual goal that he scored, brilliant. To have a player like him who can come on and save Saka minutes would be unreal. And the other thing about him is attitude, right?
Yeah.
Everyone was, all going crazy with the champagne and the beer and drinking out the cup and whatever. He's a religious guy, but he sat in the corner and was talking to his family on the phone, celebrated with his teammates, just didn't want to be around the alcohol and stuff like that. Hardworking. I thought his performance was so mature when things are going crazy. He is a special player. And in January, that's the type of signing you can make that could ignite the attack, right? When people are looking for a spark. And when I mentioned him to Clive Palmer, he didn't think it was crazy at all. But what he said, and I said to him, it would be a good gamble. And what Clive Palmer said, he goes, unlike defense or a goalkeeper, for example, taking a gamble on an attacking player like that is a good gamble.
Yeah, that's the area where you can gamble. Yeah, attacking players you can gamble on. Yeah.
And I think that would not be, when we're looking for a spark, and all the rumors suggest, Arsenal and Liverpool have been sniffing around, and he was very coy about, in the press conferences, he wanted to focus on the final. That's the type of signing in January that I would make. If people are expecting the $100 million striker, that's not happening. But that kind of signing, that can help the team. And when they're looking for a younger profile player, he's Brazilian, but I don't know what that means, but he would fit in with the team.
Is he a ball carrier? Is he someone that takes the ball to the opposite? Like, he goes at players, he creates things out of a very little.
Dude, he's like Roadrunner with a football.
It's just that I feel like Arsenal have really lacked. Is he like exclusively a central player, or can he play in wide areas?
No,
as well?
he plays on the right, but he can play on the left. He can play on the left as well. They interchange as well a lot, especially like in a second half game. He's and they've got Paintsill,
Oh, yeah, I see.
the Ghanaian international,
Yeah.
who's really good as well.
I mean, 39 goal contributions in 41 games from the wing is very good, even at MLS level. Like very, very good. Yeah.
Yeah. And the good thing about him is, you know, when you want Martinelli to look up and make the pass and he doesn't, and still after these couple years, which I get that frustration part from Arsenal fans, he looks up, he's aware, his awareness is great, but he's also a risk taker and he believes in himself where he'll carry the ball and try to take on that defender, and hence one of the best goals in all of MLS this season, the best individual goal that he was able to execute. But yeah, and what I like about it too is he knows when he needs to slow his roll, and that to me, when I wasn't sure and I saw the way he played on Saturday, I thought, wow, this kid understands, he gets it, you know. So that's what I'm talking about in January. Like, where are those players, X factor players, that can impact a stagnant side going forward? I mean, we scored, 13 goals in 3 games? Where's that team, Tom? What happened? You know? So
right, they're injured. A lot of them are injured or, you know, lacking form at the moment.
Right. I went on a bit of a ramble there, but what's this about? Pick me.
Oh, no, it's just someone spamming the chat. I just said, like,
oh.
You always find that the most insecure people are the ones that are, like, spamming the chat with their comments. Please read out what I've got to say.
Oh,
my opinion is more important.
Do I need to point? Do I need to do anything?
I don't think I've stopped.
Okay. All right. Well, look, I could go on and on today because this conversation is epic and awesome. And let us know what you think in the chat. With our top 5 talking points today, you know, Martinelli and the scapegoating at Arsenal. Is Mikel to blame? Have we returned back to being weak sauce AFC again? And January to the rescue, and of course, the best of the rest. You know, the unease of Chelsea doing well and Slot kind of excelling as well. Tom, what say you? What have you got lined up?
Yes, there's stuff coming. I'll be able to talk about in the coming month or 2. Things changing. Not saying anything else, just that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm really hoping that this. You can see the room behind me. This is not a permanent fixture for the channel. This is something that I will be changing as well into something. I'm not moving again. We're very much staying in this house. But hopefully that's going to change. It's just been really slow in getting stuff sorted for that. So I hope that changes. But other than that,
you and Harry are in transition.
And Charles, Charles as well.
as well.
All of us moving at the same time. Some of Arsenal content creators just can't stay in the same place. But we are consistent in our opinions, which others aren't as much. But when it comes to content, 8 a.m. every day. We did a phone-in show today. I offer them up quite a lot. We
I'll
throw
have a
links
listen.
into the chat box if you fancy coming on. If you've disagreed with me, which you're allowed to do, as long as you're respectful about it, you know, I actively encourage people to come on and challenge me about stuff. And we had some really good conversations this morning. So, every day 8 a.m. we do a show. So
love it.
Join us.
Love it. Perfect. And maybe Tom can give us the update on this, but the Arsenal. Don't you love that Football Prizes are doing the Arsenal women thing? That's pretty cool. So we've got the North London Derby
at the weekend.
Hospitality. I know, right? We got the North London Derby hospitality. Go to footballprizes.co.uk. Ends tomorrow. The competition ends. There's just a few tickets left. Who doesn't want to do that? And who doesn't want to win Beth Mead's signed frame shirt as well? So go check that out. And we also have the Arsenal Ipswich hospitality competition that ends on the 17th. A few more days left, but you're not going to want to miss out on that, because there's some brilliant additional prizes as well, including some legend shirts, Seaman, Perez, and Gilberto, and a bunch of others. So thank you to Football Prizes for their continued support. And don't forget to get your your story into the highburysquad@gmail.com, looking for the funniest, saddest, raddest, coolest stories, whether you were there or not during the Invincible season. If you watched it back on tape as well, you can get in touch with us, the highburysquad@gmail.com. We're giving away the Invincibles coin collection from Zenith Coins. And of course, if you're looking for a gift this season for your mates, 15% off. Use squad15 as the code and gift yourselves the gift that keeps on giving. Tom is the gift that keeps on giving. You get to close out, Tom, as you know, here on Squad Central. What's your parting shot to the squaddies this evening?
Go and watch a Lindsay Lohan movie, obviously. Doesn't have to be the new Christmas one. It can be any of them. Herbie Fully Loaded, classic. That's a good one. Freaky Friday. The Christmas one last year was hilarious. Did you watch the last year's one? It was like she hits her head and forgets who she is and like ends up with like a different fiance by the end of it. Classic Lindsay Lohan. Like you can't complain. I am, of course, joking.
I'm amazed. This is fantastic.
I think I always end with this. There are things far more important than Arsenal. I know that it's really hard for some people to hear sometimes, but when you realise that it is genuinely just a game and it's just something that we enjoy watching, and it doesn't need to overtake your life, it doesn't need to change how you speak to friends, family, act around them. It really doesn't. It's football and social media in general become far too much of a drain on people's mental health. So look after yourselves this Christmas and maybe give yourself a Christmas gift of learning how to detach. Trust me, it'll make you far happier.
I love that. Beautifully said. And squaddies, thank you so much. Don't forget to let Tom have it in the YouTube's comment respectfully if you agree or disagree with him. Look out on the community page for our next show. Thank you, Tom, for your time. You know the rules here, squaddies. Don't forget to tell your loved ones you love them. And at ease, at ease.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.